Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to our live. In today's discussion, we're actually going to touch on something that's really important. All right. It's something that is in some sort, some way, some fashion, touching every individual, really across the United States. Well, not just, you know what? Across the
Across
world. I think the
the
entire
world.
world is inflation,
Across
right?
the world. Absolutely, sir.
Okay. So, for those who are joining for the first time, my name is Leland Baptist. I have our amazing host with me, Hank Hunt, and
Hello, everybody.
we offer education for those who want to learn how to invest in alternative investments. We
Hmm.
offer training and education through what's called the Asset Builders Club, and we give bi-monthly or bi-monthly. We give
Yes, I
training
do.
twice a month, every other week, bi-weekly, um, live training via Zoom that is free and open to everyone. So our next training is actually tomorrow, which is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the link is there for you guys to sign up, register, bring any questions that you have, and we're going to touch on the topic for this week in that live training, multifamily investing. So, with all that being said, Hank, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good today, Leland. It's raining here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and then I realized that though we've got a little rain, there are tornadoes happening in parts of the country. There's lots of rain, 3 to 6 inches in certain parts of the country, snow in parts of the country, sunshine, drought, fires, all of that other stuff. And the only thing I do is I'm aware of all of that, but I just try to protect myself and pray for everybody else.
Whew. You know what? I appreciate your prayer, sir.
Hey, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Hank, when you think of hedging inflation, what immediately comes to your mind?
I think to me it's a safeguard. How do you protect yourself against something that you have no control over? That you become a party, like the weather I was just talking about. It is what it is. Okay. And we just have to find a way to find our own little sweet spot, um, a place of comfort in the discomfort.
Right.
And so that's all, because we cannot control the situation, but we can control how we respond to situation, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Okay. So, in other words, you cannot control the weather, but you can control what you wear outside.
Oh, well, absolutely. And the weather's too bad, don't go outside. You know, um, but if people are, I think oftentimes, Leland, because something hit the airways, it hits the TV. It's breaking news, and we get wrapped into breaking news, and we lose our sense of focus. And next thing you know, the day has passed, and you go like, "Wow, I had some stuff that I needed to get done today, but I put what needed to get done on the back burner and did something that wasn't going to be beneficial to me at all."
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and that's allowing your situation to become your circumstance, and then for it to become your life.
And then if we're not cognizant of what's happening and how we're responding, it could be detrimental. It could have long-term implications to our lack of attention to detail.
Absolutely. So, in reference to inflation, this has been a major topic in the airwaves waves for I would almost the entire year.
It's it has been creeping, but for the most part, the last 4 months.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something that we want you all to be aware of. What you're going to find out, and we're going to go through a list that was provided by Investopedia. And so Investopedia has a list of basically 9 type of investments or 9 investment classes that are quote unquote hedge for inflation. we're going to go over these, and I want everyone to keep in mind that many of these are not what you think they are. Okay. Many of these are not what you think they are.
Okay.
So, number one on our list, drum roll, please. Number one on our list is gold.
Oh yeah.
GOLD. Some people refer to it as God's money.
Okay.
I heard Robert Kiyosaki say that on an interview that it's God's money. So,
are we talking jewelry or are we talking gold?
and that is the thing. So many, when they hear this, they immediately think of, okay, gold. Surely I can go ahead and purchase stocks of gold on the stock exchange. That's not where you want to go. That's not the same thing. What you're doing there is you're still getting derivatives of derivatives. We're talking about actual bars of gold. We're talking about maybe gold coins. Okay. We're talking about true trinkets that you can actually put your hands on. We're talking about that kind of gold. Do not be confused just because someone's stock ticker says gold. Do not think that by you buying shares of that stock ticker that you now have your hand on gold. You do not.
And we're talking about pure 24 karat gold.
That's right.
The pure stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Not the digital stuff though.
Correct. Um, and Leland, I was just reminiscing. I can remember, and I don't know what age and how far back. I can remember when gold was maybe $600 an ounce,
Wow.
and I can remember it going up to as much as $2,400 an ounce. I don't know what it is today, but I read an article yesterday that says that Russia has, I think it's $100 and some billion worth of gold that they can't sell.
On the open market.
Well, yeah, they can't legitimately sell because of some economic restraints and constraints that's been placed on them because of actions that they've taken. Because
Right.
there are consequences to your action.
Whew.
So we're talking about the pure stuff, gold. But Leland, also with people who want to invest in gold, if you buy it, then you've got another issue, and that is where you're going to store it.
100%, Hank. It's similar to someone having a collection of valuable paintings. As the value of those paintings go up, it's important for them to be able to store that asset. Sometimes keep it airtight, and make sure that it is secure at all times.
Yeah, yes.
Something.
And we have a friend that who invests in gold, and I don't know how much he has, but but he uses it again as a hedge against inflation, just in case the bottom drops out of the dollar.
Absolutely. Now, I want to give an asterisk real quick for gold. So someone is probably wondering, well, where do I get my hand on an actual gold coin or actual gold bar? So you're gonna have you can Google this, and maybe we should put together some kind of a sheet for you guys, or you can just join Asset Builders Club. But you can look up where to purchase gold bullons. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Bullion, bullion.
Yeah, yeah. And what you can do is when you order it, they will ship it to your home. It will have its own little code and serial basically number to basically identify it. But here's the thing I want to let people know. After you purchase that gold, after you put it away in your safe or your safes, or you put it somewhere else in your bank deposit box or whatever else, what you want to keep in mind is that much of the gold that is in circulation right now, like for example, you buy it from a broker, right? He hands you the actual gold. Comes with maybe a certificate, for example. What's going to happen is, God forbid that history repeats itself and the actual bottom does drop out, as in the 1930s. Everyone who has purchased gold, that broker has their name, their phone number, their email, and their address. If the bottom drops out of the economy, the United States government has the right
Confiscate.
to confiscate. They have the right to knock on your door and say, hey, Mr. Baptist, we're going to need the gold that you purchased. And you might say to yourself, well, I don't have any gold. I didn't purchase any gold. And they say, well, we have your order number, blah, blah, blah. You bought it from this distributor here, or this broker here. You had this amount. When you purchased it, you paid this amount. You use this card to pay, it'll go through all that. And here's what will happen. If you lie and say, I don't have it, if you lie and say, I sold it, they're going to lock you up and they're going to hit you with a fine for being a commodities broker.
An illegal commodities broker.
Illegal commodities broker. Yeah. Okay. So just I want to throw that out there. I don't want someone to think that, hey, Leland told me to buy gold. I'm going to stash this gold in my car or my socks. And if the government, requests to confiscate, I'm going to lie and say, I don't know what you're talking about. If you do that, you're going to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow.
Hey. Now, the next thing is pretty interesting. Are commodities.
Stuff.
Physical things again. We're back to physical stuff, guys.
That you eat, wear, we're talking about some of that.
Or consume.
Or consume.
In some shape or form, right? Yeah. Gas or gasoline, oil is a commodity.
Yep.
So right now, okay, for example, you do have the ability to have commodity contracts, commodity options, commodity agreements,
futures,
and these are things that can take place on the stock market, but they also take place outside of the stock market.
Correct.
And I believe it was last week I gave an example of when I worked for International Paper, and we would have contracts with different individuals who owned acres and acres of land. Those are essentially option contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It would give us the option as a company to purchase various, not bushels per se, but various, we call them rims. And by rims, it just means that the big things of paper. So you knew that if you had a certain amount of oaks or a certain amount of pine trees primarily, that it would equate to a certain amount of rims of paper, okay? So it will allow us to purchase that wood at a strike price that was predetermined before the market went crazy. But if the market went crazy, where prices tripled in value, it gave us the option to no longer have to purchase that wood from that quote unquote supplier or that quote unquote grower. Okay. So these are things that happen every day. If you guys think about it, just as a quick example, Pepsi and Coca-Cola make what? Soda, right? They make soda.
Soft. Drinks, because it's not no longer just soda.
They make drinks, soft and hard. How about that, right?
Right. Seltzers, energy drinks, even flavored waters.
Water. So they make drinks. And for the soft drinks that require a lot of sugar, I would not be surprised if Pepsi and Coca-Cola did not already have a few option contracts with growers of cane sugar, where they've agreed up into 2025 to purchase cane sugar at a specific price, that no matter what's going on in the market, that they had a guaranteed amount of cane sugar by the pound or by the ton for a set price. Okay.
And that's part of the hedge, Leland. But one of the things that cropped into my mind is the economy is bubbling along. There's inflation, and we're talking about hedges against inflation. But the commodities, these goods and services that we're talking about, can fluctuate very significantly in price, whereby you don't consider them a hedge if you're the consumer rather than the investor. So I just want to make that differentiation because we're talking about it from an investment perspective, okay? But for you and I, it's like, hey, I go to the grocery store, I feel the inflation, and there's nothing I can do. If I need a gallon of milk or if I need a dozen eggs, I'm going to pay whatever the going price is.
That's
So we
right.
just have to make certain that we understand the difference between the consumer and the investor. They could be one and the same, but not necessarily.
Not necessarily. And I also want everyone to think about this real quick. What we are showing you guys are examples in which large companies, even those that are on the publicly traded stock market, how
Hmm.
they use these assets. Now,
Hmm.
if it's good enough for Pepsi to use this type of investing, if it's good enough for Bayer and all these other companies to use it, even AMC, for example, last week, Hank, what did AMC buy?
Gold. They invested in a gold mine somewhere in out west. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
hold on real quick. Here's the thing. They bought into a company that physically mines gold.
Hmm.
They did not buy into a company that happens to do some derivatives of gold.
Hmm.
Again,
The
that was
real.
betting on the physical asset.
Well, and Leland, what that says is, and what it should resonate with people is that these big companies invest in one another. Okay, they buy they buy a stake, shares, of one another's company, and that helps to. I don't like using the word manipulate, but for lack of a better word, it helps to manipulate the markets.
I'm going to say it helps them cooperate, helps them join forces if necessary. That's
Yeah,
the
potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
now the next asset. So we all know commodities again. That could be sugar, that could be oil, that could be coconut oil. All right, that
Hmm.
could be literally bananas. It could be beef.
Hmm.
In some cases, precious metals, utilities, all that good
Pork,
stuff.
pork,
Or
tobacco,
especially
hemp.
tobacco.
Hemp. I mean, it's those are commodities.
Those are commodities. Now, here's the
Yeah,
thing, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing wrong again with you owning commodities.
absolutely not.
You have the ability to own commodities on your own. Now, I'll tell you this though: if you happen to have a oil rig or oil well in your backyard, you know, Exxon or Shell or someone will come visit you.
Hmm.
Okay, but
Hmm.
again, you can still have those commodities. There's something that I want to add to this. We're going to go to the next one as we move through these fairly quickly, a lot quicker. Um, this is very tricky. So this is not. Here's the thing. This article says asset classes. All right, gold is part of an asset class. Commodities, it's a big asset class. But here's the
Hmm.
thing. They're telling you right here, having a portfolio, quote unquote, ratio of 60-40, of 60% stock and 40% bond is a asset class. And the truth, that's not the same thing. This is basically still someone using the stock market, and they're
Hmm.
trying to cut their losses on the stock market by investing in more bonds, because typically bonds for the most part will stay rather even. Okay,
It's a safer investment.
it's a safer investment. That is it.
Hmm.
So in that case, I'm going to skip to the next one. We'll go to REITs. Hank, is there anything you want to add real quick?
Well, again, the Treasury Department or the Federal Reserve, I forget which one of the two, increased the the payout dividend rate on or interest rate on bonds. So a lot of people are moving towards bonds as an investment because the stock market has been so volatile. So we are looking for safer investments. But again, you're looking at maybe two and a quarter, maybe 2.5% return on a bond, and you could get a lot more on a stock, but you also could lose the stock. Whereas with the bond, it's a guaranteed investment.
Yeah, it's probably, I would say the bond is probably really one of the safest investments that you could have, unless you were someone who recently was investing in Russian bonds, right? Because who would have thought that would have happened?
Oops.
So in that case, whoopsie
Yeah.
daisy.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna look at REITs. Next one we'll look at are REITs. Hold on, a lot of technical difficulties. Not sure what's going on, but okay. All right, we're gonna look at REITs. So real estate investment trust is what they call REITs. And this really, what's interesting about a REIT is that it is a institution's way of turning a physical asset like real estate into a form of the stock market. So
Yeah,
similar
it's an
how,
investment vehicle. Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
So similar how let's say Pepsi again. Pepsi has share, and then Pepsi has shareholders, et cetera, et cetera. Um, they'll be able to take a particular building, break up the building into smaller shares, and then divvy it out to people. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, here is something I want to give you guys in full transparency when it comes to REITs. All right. Um, the REITs nor the stock, neither one of those will have any true tax benefits. Okay. Anything that is connected to real estate during an era or a time where there's a lot of inflation, it's always a good hedge, yes. But I want you guys to understand that with a REIT, you're actually investing into the actual trust,
Hmm.
TRUS, or the actual entity. And it just so happens that that entity is primarily investing in real estate. So just because you're invested into a REIT, it doesn't really mean that you get all the true benefits of the physical property,
Hmm.
i.e., depreciation, appreciation, et cetera, et cetera. All right. I want to be 100% transparent on that.
And the cost for entry um, in a REIT is a little bit more expensive. Is more expensive than you would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And the returns, again, based on the risk profile, the returns can be very, very hit or miss. Okay. So
Hmm.
just keep it in mind. I'm not, I just want people to be aware of that. The next thing here is the S&P 500.
Let's just call it stock market.
The stock market. That's
That's all. Let's just call it the stock market.
yeah.
And they're calling
Again,
it a hedge.
a hedge. But here's the thing. I want to say this again. They're calling it a hedge because what they're saying is that if the stock market is made out of, in this example, or the Standard & Poor's made out of the top, if this is made out of this top 500 companies of the Standard & Poor, what they're saying is for that market to bottom out, that means that all 500 of those companies would have to go to hell.
Okay.
That's basically what that's saying. And it's saying, hey, we don't know which company will do good or bad, but the likelihood of all 500 doing bad isn't going to happen. And
That
that's
makes
really what
yeah.
you're
Okay.
betting.
That makes sense.
All right. Next thing that we have here is real estate income.
Ah,
And here's the thing, I
ah.
want you guys to understand. The building itself is an asset.
Yes,
The entity that owns the building is its own asset.
yes.
And then the income itself, or as some people like to call it, the cash flow, is its
Mhm,
own asset.
mm,
So
mm, mm.
this can be done in many ways in today's economy. It could still be done in the traditional fashion of a landlord and tenant relationship.
Mhm,
It could be Airbnb. It could be corporate housing, and it could
mhm.
also be insurance housing as well. There are people, unfortunately, that if their home burns down, they reach out to their insurance company, and their insurance company will pay 12 months in advance for them to live somewhere. That's relatively basically free for them because the insurance company is paying it up front. So
Mhm.
there are different ways, but in today's economy, with where prices are right now, you want to be more strategic.
And there are a lot of there. I said a lot. There are a number of things, for lack of a better term, that will weigh on the price of real estate. Right now the Sun Belt is a very, very highly competitive and hot area. Hot meaning cost wise, you'll pay out of the roof. California, you'll pay out of the roof. New York, you pay out of the roof. Midwest is not as bad because of the cost of living. So there are deals to be had, and there's money to be made. But again, you've got to do your homework.
You have to do your homework. And again, something I didn't mention too, you could probably, rent your property out based on the rooms. Few people have done that. Maybe even student living for college students, et cetera, et cetera. That is something that people do as well.
And one of the reasons why real estate is a good hedge is that as the owner of the real estate, you pass the increase in costs to, if it's rental, to the person who's renting. And remember, it's an asset where it's an appreciative asset, meaning that the basic tenant of the house will appreciate in value while you're still receiving ongoing income. So you get paid twice or three times, depending on how you're going to slice it and dice it.
Yeah, you technically do get paid three times. This is one of the few assets that are being listed here where you're able to, again, capture appreciation and depreciation as well. And in some cases, depending on who's who's in office in the presidential office,
Hmm.
you'll be able to capture your pay down of interest based on your mortgage or in your property taxes too. So you get all those as additional credits, which is really beneficial if you're someone who is earning money actively. Maybe you have a W-2, or maybe you're an investor in some other industry. You're able to offset your taxes that way. Yeah. Um, we'll go over these last three very quickly. Again, this is I think this is more of a promotion. They're
Hmm.
particularly implementing or requesting the Bloomberg Aggregated Bond Index. Okay, again, similar to the S&P 500, where it's a ETF that is just based off of a group of companies, and you're betting that the entire group does not go to hell. That's the best way I can put it.
Right. And Leland, for the most part, all of these hedges, these nine hedges, for the most part, are being managed by an entity that has a money manager of sort. So they are making money off of the money that you invest into these nine categories. Sure, you might get something, but these are people who are managing, for the most part, your money, your resources, and they make money off of your money. And sometimes they'll make more money off your money than you will.
Absolutely. So I want to bring this in full circle. If you look at this article very closely, you'll notice that in each the article they're suggesting a certain fund for that. Even with the gold, they're
Hmm.
suggesting to do it within a fund that's based in the stock market. Again, my suggestion for you guys, if you want that true control in the actual asset of gold, you want to go invest in it the way that we mentioned. But all these things that are being listed here, you can actually do them yourself. Unfortunately, three of these things are basically the stock market. And as far as the real estate, the REITs, it's not really the real estate. That's still a form of you getting a stock. Okay, so if we were to break these categories down, it would really just go into commodities because gold is technically a commodity. It would go to commodities, stock, real estate, and loans. And that's our last one now, which are
Hmm.
loans. It's really only four classes that you're actually able to leverage. And I would say be careful of the stock, all right? Because many stocks or the stock market itself is in many different forms. So you really only have those three asset classes: commodities, real estate, and then loans. Okay, so and that's what our last one is right here: loans. So Hank, when people hear the word loans, what typically hits the average consumer?
There's either mortgage or car, and that's what we are basically involved with.
And normally, when the average consumer hears the word loan, they think of, and rightfully so, they think of a liability.
Correct.
And what we have to understand is that companies, financial institutions, they look at loans as
That's
assets.
that's right. As an asset.
That's right.
Yes, indeed.
So they're looking at this as an asset. Okay.
And
So
why is that, Leland?
because they understand the fancy word would be aggregate. All right, they know to put together a lot of loans into a quote unquote bundle, or as
Hmm.
they have it right here, they call it a CLO, collateralized loan obligations. Right, they
Hmm.
know to put those loans together, and that they will be able to sell those loans.
Excuse me. They do what with them?
They sell them like how people like to sell Beanie Babies in the '90s. They love
Yeah.
to sell loans. Financial institutions love to sell loans. Hedge funds, the REITs, uh,
Hmm.
your bank,
Mm.
mortgage. I mean, they love to sell these loans, and that's how they're making their money. And the way that works is it's paper. We all know that it's paper. It's time, which is a term, and it's an interest rate. And so,
Hmm.
Bob looks at his loan like, hey, I just signed $100,000 loan. I have 30 years to pay that back.
Hmm.
The bank looks at it as, hey, Bob just signed a $500,000 loan agreement with us, and he's
Yep.
collateralized his home. That's a win for us.
Absolutely. And there's a market out there for buying mortgage loans or loans. Period. And I would just say maybe you want to take a look at it.
Absolutely. Last year, Hank and I had the pleasure of interviewing an amazingly sharp and financially astute young lady who, for a living, she purchases debt. She purchases these CLOs or these bundles of loans from Wells Fargo, from Bank of America, et cetera, et cetera. And in some cases, she will go ahead and sell private loans to Bank of America and to Wells Fargo. And she does that. And as she's doing that, she's earning large tranches of income in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leland, as I often say, we don't know what we don't know because we look at things a certain way. We as individuals look at, we look at loans and go, oh my God, that's an obligation. There are people out there going like, oh my God, I can make some money with this. Okay.
Yeah,
Perspective and perception. Okay.
that's right. So again, guys, we want to make sure that we at least made you all aware of what's in the market and what you're being presented with. Again, do not be deceived. Out of these 9 quote unquote asset classes, there are really only 3 asset classes here. You have your basically your leverage loans, or if you're an individual, you'll call them private loans. You have real estate income, and then you have commodities. Everything else is just a form of either bonds, which by the way is our loans. just so you guys
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is just the form of bonds, ETFs, or stocks. Okay, but those your bonds again, as Hank and I mentioned, they are going to be more consistent. However, God forbid again that something similar to Russia happens. That's the only time where your bond is going to default. So could it happen? Yes. I never thought
Mm-hmm.
I would see it in my lifetime that would happen, but obviously here we are.
Well said, my friend.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your time. Again, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have a live training on multifamily investing, which again is a hedge against investing, and it also is a alternative investment. Thank you
That
all.
you can put your hand that you control.
That's right.